Hello and welcome back. So today I thought that we would talk about something that comes up quite a lot for me, actually. Let's talk about personality types, or more specifically, the DiSC personality profile assessment. Now, this assessment apparently can define the entire human race, that's every man, woman, and child on the planet, into 4 colors, believe it or not. I can't tell you the sheer number of times I've been asked to determine whether someone is a blue personality or a red personality or some other such rubbish. I was asked a couple of months ago if I was a qualified DiSC assessor, and the answer to that is no, I'm not. I studied real psychology. The DiSC assessment was created by Thomas Erikson, and by 2012, I suppose, he had established himself as a renowned speaker and as an author in Sweden. And he said he came with a strong background in communications. He was a communication specialist. He communicated in sales. He presented himself as a leading expert in behavioral psychology, one that had apparently already helped hundreds of salespeople achieve new heights. Now, nonetheless, even despite his growing popularity at the time, when he approached a Stockholm publisher with the manuscript for his new book during the same year, 2012, they immediately shut down his idea. Why? Well, first of all, the title he suggested was extremely provocative. He wanted to call it Surrounded by Idiots. And, this was the main title he chose for his book. Furthermore, the publisher wasn't exactly infatuated with the general theme of the book either. They also didn't like the cover art, which was designed by Erikson himself. It featured 4 silhouettes in blue, green, yellow, and red, symbolizing the 4 personality types he had identified, and he elaborates on in his book. However, Erikson didn't let that rejection bring him down, because 2 years later he self-published Surrounded by Idiots, the 4 types of human behavior. He literally drove around the country begging bookstores to buy copies of his books. And those who did saw the copies rapidly fly off the shelves. The book was an instant success, and demand grew rapidly. It captured the imagination not only of the Swedish public in general, but it even became an international success and has sold millions of copies, including those which have been translated from the original Swedish into 40 different languages. Of course, soon Erikson was invited to speak on popular Swedish TV programs, and his work has even impacted the way Swedish people talk about the behavior of others. But there is one key problem with Erikson's work. It's simply and plainly absolute nonsense. It's pseudoscience. It's ludicrous to think that you can classify people's personalities into colors. In fact, the very notion of categorizing people into different personality types actually lacks any scientific evidence whatsoever, yet he managed to mislead millions of people with his fake, made-up notion of 4 personality types. Around the world, schools and human resource departments started testing people for the so-called color of their personalities. And, sneaky opportunities made a fortune selling these tests. There are whole companies set up that specialize in these tests. Partners and departments were broken up because they were misled to believe that the color combination wasn't working. Entire companies were completely restructured on the basis of this pseudoscience. Even the screening of candidates and job appointments were made on the basis of fake, made-up, non-existent personality types, and still are. Now, despite Erikson's success, his theories, or rather his fantasies, of course, have been rightly discredited by psychologists all over the world and the broader scientific community. In fact, in 2018, he was awarded the title of Fraudster of the Year by the Swedish Skeptic Society. Erikson has ultimately revived an early 20th century pseudoscience, which was first promoted by the American psychologist William Moulton Marston, to whom he also appeals as an authority. Now, Marston was a real psychologist. Marston had, without any actual evidence to back it up, proposed 4 personality types, yellow, green, blue, and red, as variations in people based on their level of, I suppose, psychonic energy, which of course is fake. There's no such thing as psychonic energy. But anyway, Morrison had a fabulous imagination. I mean, of course he did. He was the inventor of the superhero Wonder Woman, whom he believed would be a model of the liberated feminist woman of the 1930s. So his imagination wasn't in question. Now, following Morrison, the industrial psychologist Walter Clark then went on to invent a personality test known as the DiSC test, based on a 4-color model. Now, according to the DiSC personality assessment, all human personalities can be divided into 4 different types. Red, that means you're dominant and focused. Blue, that means you're analytic and careful. Green, that is patient and nice. And yellow, which apparently means that you're extroverted and creative. Clark expressly promoted his test as a means of vetting potential job candidates. But of course, classifying people into different kinds of personality types is nothing short of junk science. This is not to say that there aren't certain identifiable personality traits common amongst human beings. There are. In fact, there are 5 main categories which many psychologists identify as generally applicable to the human personality and temperament. Now, these can be generally memorized by using the acronym OCEAN. And they are openness to experience, people who are generally curious or cautious; conscientiousness, people who are generally either organized or careless; extraversion, people who are generally outgoing or reserved; agreeableness, people who are generally either compassionate or critical; and neuroticism, people who are either nervous or confident. Now, whilst these are widely recognized as innate personality traits or, predispositions common amongst most human beings, they are never and aren't to this day proposed as being exhaustive of the human personality or as a complete explanation of human behavior by any stretch of the imagination. There simply aren't a set number of basic personality types among human beings either. Because, personality is essentially nothing other than repeatable patterns of behavior on the part of the individual. Personality is not something that exists independently of the person. It's not something that can be abstracted and categorized. For example, say someone is rude to you, and then later excuses their behavior on the basis that their personality type made them do it. I mean, this is neither an excuse nor an explanation for the behavior. It's like shifting responsibility away from yourself and onto some imaginary demon inside your head called your personality. When people attribute behavior to their personality, they're essentially attributing it to themselves. It is absurd to view someone who acts in a certain way in terms of the color of their personality. Doing so means the actual reasons for or the causes behind any problems are simply ignored. It's really hard to imagine a more counterproductive way of dealing with a problem than by simply attributing it to the fact that the person in the center of the conflict is blue, for example. Our environment also impacts our psyche, and it shapes our behavior, regardless of what our natural dispositions or innate personality traits may be. Clark and Erikson's unscientific model, in falsely attributing all behavioral patterns to the color of their personality, completely disregards the very significant cultural element to being human. Humans aren't simply isolated individuals. We are pack animals, so to speak, meaning our behavior and our mindset is also shaped by the mindset and behavior of people around us. The culture we live in impacts our humor, our small talk, the elements of our social gathering, the way we relax and spend our leisure time, the books we read, the music we listen to, the talents we choose to cultivate, as well as the timings, of our most important life decisions relating to things like education and marriage. It is this influence of the environment upon behavior which often allows us to generally predict people's behavior with relative accuracy. For example, if I were to arrive in the Bahamas and smile and wave at a local, they're almost certainly going to smile and wave back. However, if I were to arrive on North Sentinel Island in the Indian Ocean, we can predict that the locals would attack and kill me, because that's what they've been doing. These are two very different types of behavior, which are culturally shaped and informed, and it would be absolutely ludicrous to attribute this to the Bahamian people being populated with exclusively green personalities, whereas the Sentinelese are randomly all happen to be, exclusively red personality. It's bunkum. As people, we want and we need to improve ourselves, but these completely unscientific personality tests simply classify entire segments of the population as this type or that type of person with set and immutable strengths and weaknesses. Labeling someone as green or yellow essentially means telling them you will never be able to become anything else. Ultimately, personality is simply far too complex to simply categorize the personalities of the entire planet's population into 4 colors. There are innumerable contributing factors when it comes to our personality, including environment, culture, genetics, experiences, and hundreds of others. We should never allow ourselves to be limited or caged in by artificial categories imposed upon us by unscientific personality tests. True psychology should much rather aim at aiding the unique potential of each human being to come to full fruition. But here's the thing. We're not as unique as we seem to think we are. There are similarities. It is possible to predict behavior, because behavior is not personality. Behavior is a pattern that you default to. Nothing more, nothing less. And as for these companies who use this DiSC assessment to try and determine who the best candidates are for a job, what I would say to those HR managers are, you know what? You might as well go to a fortune teller to do a tarot reading. Go learn tarot card reading yourself, because the information you get in that test is just as valid as the information a tarot card reader gives you in a tarot reading. All right, there you go. So you can see this particular subject triggers me, can't you? I will talk to you in the next video. Bye.